Do you feel constantly dissatisfied? Like, are you just never content? Does life just never meet your expectations and it's just a pain? Why couldn't things be better? Well, you're in luck. Today's episode, we're going to be talking about how to be satisfied or contented. Are they the same thing? And how the F do you do it? This is the Existential Stoic podcast. I'm Randy. That's Danny. What's going on, Danny?
What's up, Randy?
Yeah, so this is an interesting one because I feel like I can never be satisfied for like more than maybe an hour tops.
It is, I know, right? It's hard. It is. And I think, what was it? It was John Stuart Mill. He has that famous quote, like, it's better to be a human being dissatisfied than a fool satisfied, better to be Socrates, or better to be a human being dissatisfied than a pig satisfied, better to be a fool, Socrates dissatisfied than a fool satisfied. And it's funny because, like, his argument or the implication is that dissatisfaction is important because when we're dissatisfied, we recognize things that we could improve in the world. And then we formulate ideas of how to improve it. Sometimes things that you could never possibly meet in the world. Like, we formulate ideal states, ideal relationships, things like that. But it gives us something to work towards to improve sort of constantly our life. But I think this is the other thing though, because I feel like we get stuck in this like perpetual cycle of trying to constantly like if things aren't improving, they're not good. And then that can also be problematic as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we get caught in this illusion of like happily ever after. As or at
Because
least maybe
everything's
not
been
we, but me.
Well, no, but I
I
think
get caught in
I think
this.
that's true though, because like every piece of media we watch from like a young age, right? I mean, it's all kind of drilling into your head this idea that things might be tough, but there's a point where everything's okay, you know? And I think it's like it kind of raises that question. It's like, well, is that actually accurate? And is that the problem? Is our beliefs really the problem, not necessarily the world?
Well, I kind of think it's almost a natural thing to be dissatisfied because you look at like how we survive. We breathe. If you hold your breath, it's very dissatisfying. And so you need to like breathe out or breathe in order to be satisfied once again. But it's like a constant thing of like erring on dissatisfaction. If you look at hunger, same thing. Sleep, same thing. All these things, they're like these cycles of dissatisfaction where we go from like pain and dissatisfaction to okay, feeling good to pain and dissatisfaction the other way. And it's just like a pendulum going back and forth and
That's
it's
an
never
interesting way
ending.
to look at it. Yeah, like our biological needs themselves have this sort of implication, right? Where it's like the dissatisfaction is the that hunger pain or the need for thirst or whatever, right? And there's a way to resolve it. Yeah, I think it is weird though when you think about it a lot because it is like I know I think a lot of people are dissatisfied at a lot of things, and it's like does is that a way to motivate us to make things better? Is it like a maybe it is a mechanism like that, like you were saying, like biological or like what do you call it? Like adaptive mechanism, right? That it helps us seek out new things, better things. Like back in the day when maybe like a your community got too crowded, right? You might have been the one who was dissatisfied with it and went out and found a new place that was better, right? You never know, or died. But
Yeah.
yeah, but it's like that kind of like pushing ourselves to keep trying to do new things and to keep trying to improve the circumstances of our lives, I think is so dissatisfaction, I think has that important role to play, but it can also be, I think it can also be problematic too, because I think we can get caught in like this kind of negative cycle too, where that's all we see is dissatisfaction, and then it can be instead of being a motivating force, it can be like a hindrance to our moving forward.
Yeah. It is tricky. It's like a fine line you have to walk and try and figure out. Like I've been listening to a whole bunch of stuff recently on like childhood trauma. And they say that a lot of people who had childhood trauma, their childhoods were very
Everybody,
dissatisfactory. But because of that, because of how terrible their childhood was, they're like a lot of times they're very successful later in life because they have so much dissatisfaction and so much striving to get over this pain of childhood that they, you know, meet all the success metrics later on in life. Not saying that they're actually enjoying life or
or
doing well
happy.
in life,
Yeah.
but the success stuff, the money, the business success, the whatever else, the things that they can buy. Yeah,
Well, that is the
interesting.
weird, that is the weird thing too, though, right? That like if, all right, like if we're completely satisfied, say, just imagine you're completely satisfied and stuff, right? You have no real impulse to do stuff. Like you might do things just because like to entertain yourself or whatever, but there's not that like that driving force. Like if you look at like you look at like Gandhi or like just to pick a couple people like even like Martin Luther King Jr., right? Like that clear dissatisfaction with the world around them was like I mean the main driving force of everything they did, right? And I think there is that sort of there's a power in it to make us, kind of do things and realize stuff that we wouldn't otherwise if we were satisfied. And I think that's the other interesting thing. Like, is it necessary? Maybe, I guess. Seems like it might be.
Yeah. It's the whole concept of like trying not to get too attached to stuff. When
I know.
when you're satisfied, don't get too attached to that. And when you're dissatisfied, don't be too averse to that,
I think that's
you
the
know?
problem though. Is like we look I've been thinking about that a lot too. Like I think that's our biggest problem is that we look for these fixed states. Like we want to be happy and we want to be happy. Like that's it. Right? Or we want, and it's like that's not possible, nor is it realistic. Like, because no matter what you do, things are going to happen in the world that you can't control. They're going to affect your mood, your livelihood, your way of life. And so I think we have these like false concepts of, what a good life is, what happiness, what life is. And that screws up our whole ability to like live it and in a way that's like mentally healthy, but also like flourishing, right? Like actually doing well.
Do you think that we can actually get better at life? Like it would seem on one hand, it would seem on one hand like yes, like there's all this self-help stuff we can
Clearly.
become more
Yeah.
skilled in do, but like also as we become more skilled at doing whatever, we also become more finely attuned to whatever we're doing. So like even if we are doing better on some metric, it probably doesn't feel that way. Like I mean, we both know the thing with like education and learning and stuff, where like
Yeah.
the more you learn, the more you feel like you don't know.
Well,
And
I mean, Socrates, right? I mean, all I know is that I know nothing. Like the more you know about the world, the more you realize you just don't know and we don't know, right? I mean, it is, yeah, it's a hard question. I think our, no, I don't want to play blame game or anything, but I think like a big, large problem is that like we could, but like I think we'd have to fundamentally change society. You know what I mean? Like for things,
I don't want to blame the Democrats, but
yeah, right? I don't blame the Democrat. Yeah. No, I mean, just in general, like I think, no, I'm not talking about just the US. I'm talking about broadly. I think like,
no, I was
yeah,
just
yeah,
messing because you're like, I
yeah.
don't want to play the game game. I'm like, who's he gonna blame?
Well, I meant
I don't
like,
want to blame 9/11,
well,
but
yeah. No, I mean like just that, when we're usually talking about this stuff, we're talking about the individual, but I think like this is something where I think if the world or if we structured the world differently, it might be possible, but I think as is now. Because I mean, look, our whole dude, capitalism is built around like making people feel like they don't have enough, that they are dissatisfied, that this thing will fix it, right?
hmm
And I think that's
yeah.
also part of it. We've been, we're advertised to nonstop, and everything now, like social media, like everything is an advertisement. I don't care if it's an individual's account or a company's account. Like they're all basically ads about like, look at me, look how good things are going. It's, none of it's true. This thing will fix something. And it's like, yeah, I think that's a huge problem too. But I do think, I don't know, maybe it's possible. I have no idea. If we rearranged everything.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think that you can be satisfied all the time. But it's
You can definitely be
satisfaction.
satisfied at times, right? Like at moments, there's definitely
Yeah.
satisfaction. And I think that's a good thing to seek out and maybe getting, recognizing our dissatisfaction too for what it is, like as a motivator force, a motivating force, or a realization that maybe things need to change in our lives. Like, I mean, I know it's hard to admit, like we both went through this too, being depressed and then realizing that like we weren't living the life that was right for us. We were doing kind of all the wrong things in the wrong job. But it also took a while because it's a hard thing to admit and then take action on. Because it's like it feels like starting over. Like it's not, but it
Oh,
does feel like that, dude, totally. And it
dude,
seems like such a huge dude, it seems like an impossible hurdle at the time, didn't it? Like I didn't think I
hmm
was like, dude, that's too much work. No. Like,
I was just looking in the mirror the other day saying, why does it feel like things take so freaking long?
I
Like,
know. They
yeah.
do though. Like, and it's like you spend all this time working to do something and then you change and it's like, it's like all this time's required again to do it and to get it going. And it's just,
So,
and you want to also live your
okay.
life.
So like I mean, we were lied to so dramatically as children. Like I was looking back because for like 2 years now, I've been putting in like very significant effort lifting weights. And I look back at my childhood and all of my idols were horrific steroid abusers.
Oh yeah.
Arnold Schwarzenegger,
Yeah.
Sylvester Stallone as Rambo, like all Hulk Hogan, all these dudes who I thought this was like a natural pinnacle of like, if you work hard to something, you can achieve this. But it's just like, no, completely ridiculous steroid abuse.
Because you can't
And
get muscles like that, dude. Like, I mean, it's not meant to happen like that that fast. I mean,
but
okay, look at
I
the
was looking in the
Expendables,
mirror. I
dude.
was looking
Look
in
at
the
the
mirror and like,
Expendables. He's like 80 and he's like
yeah,
jacked.
yeah. Yeah. But
It's
like
like,
even 2 years, I was looking in the mirror and I was like, man, this is like 2 years of significant, between 3 and 6 times a week in the gym, lifting weights, like to near failure. And yes, there's a definite improvement and notably so, but like not as much as you would think would happen in 2 years.
yeah, but you know what though? I remember when I was in grad school, I started lifting for the first time. I did realize something very helpful, which is I told you about those two guys there that always crack me up. They were super nice. They always like look
Yeah.
at themselves in the mirror and flex and stuff and like
Yeah.
always hate each other, like check out my abs, bro, and all. It was funny as hell. Super nice guys though. But every time we went there, they were there. And we would go for 2.5 hours, 6 times a week. And they were always there no matter what time of day. And I asked the guy one time, I'm like, dude, how long are you guys? And they were there for 8 hours a day on average, 7 days a week. And they were jacked. And I don't know if they use steroids or not. I mean, I doubt it because they were there so much, but who knows? But I mean, that's the problem is that like to get like that, that has to be your full-time job. You can't be doing anything
Mhm.
else. It has to be. I mean, and they were like, I think they were professional lifters. Like they went to competitions and stuff because like the guy was showing me
Yeah.
pictures of medals and whatnot. So like that's what they did. But like that's what you have to do. And I think that's what I sometimes it's frustrating when you see these movie stars and stuff because it's like they have the time to do that. They can spend money, hundreds of thousands of dollars on trainers and chefs, to like make sure everything's maximized. But like you're an individual, you know, it's just like when you look at like
Mhm.
these really wealthy people, you're like, how do they get so much done? It's like, well, they're not washing their clothes, they're not mowing their lawn, they're not cleaning their house, they're not taking care of their kids. Like all
Mhm.
that stuff's being taken care of for
You're
them. So
not
it's
paying
like,
taxes.
yeah, they're not paying any taxes, that's for sure. All that
I
extra
don't want to. I
income.
don't want to blame 9/11. Anyways, but you know what? I think there is something in terms of being like satisfied and contented. I think there is something that you were mentioning earlier this week is gratitude. Like focusing on gratitude and just like noticing the things that are good. Because we live on this whole spectrum, continuum, whatever you want to call it. We're like, yeah, a lot of things may be terrible, but there's probably some stuff that's okay.
Yeah,
Like maybe you have a place to sleep at night, or maybe you have 2 or 3 meals a day, or
yeah.
maybe you have a car to get you to your job that you hate, but at least you have a car because now you can earn income and you can do whatever. And so, like, starting to focus a little bit on the gratitude, I think that does help because there was, I forget exactly what they were talking about, but they were saying like, oh, it was in this book on minimalism. It was like in America, we're stuck on this whole like bigger is better and more is better.
Yeah,
But
grow or
it
die,
turns
right?
out,
Like,
yeah, but it turns out that it's not actually more things that you need. It's just the attention that you pay to it. So if you have less things, but pay more attention to them, or less, so like for instance, maybe you have less possessions, or maybe you have less good experiences, but you just focus on them a lot more, you actually get a much bigger benefit from them.
yeah, well, you make them more valuable individually, right? And so it doesn't
Mhm.
matter. No, I think you're right. Gratitude's super important, and we're so good at taking things for granted. And I think that's one of the biggest problems too, is like we're so quick to like ignore what we have and focus on what we don't. And that is because of that mentality of, I think that is like a very American mentality, right? Of like, you have to keep getting more. Like, if you're not getting more every day, you're failing. And like that idea is really bad because it's totally unsustainable, but it also forces you to never focus on what you actually have and pay attention and be grateful or happy or anything. And I mean, like we talked about before with all the biographies, and we mentioned Will Smith before numerous times, but like any of these celebrities are great examples. We're like, and it's totally understandable, dude. When I was 19 too, I would have thought the same thing. Like, if I get money, then I'll be happy because that'll solve all my immediate problems. But then you realize, like, oh no, that wasn't it. I'm still myself,
Mm-mm.
and it's like it solves the immediate stresses of like that stuff, but it doesn't solve the problem of like your mental health and happiness.
Hmm. Absolutely. And there are like new problems that you can't even see that come when you do have it. But
Yeah, it's
there's
like
something
everything
else.
else, right? Like, I think dissatisfaction can be a good motivator and really helpful, but it's like everything else with human beings, right? It can also be wildly detrimental if that's all we focus on. Because I mean, I've met people that's all they focus on is what they don't have,
Well, so
right?
like yeah, in the beginning I was talking about how like, I can be satisfied for like an hour or something.
Yeah,
And it's interesting to note the default thought pattern or thing that occurs after the satisfaction phase. Because like I'll notice when like I'm contented or I'm satisfied, things worked out to whatever, and
yeah,
things are good, and I'm like, yes. And I think, oh, this will last forever, but it never does. And then
yeah,
and then it leaves. And so like the crazy thing is when I look back on it, the default thought pattern is what can I do now to get that thing? So like it's plotting out this new course, this new path, this new whole thing that I have to do in order to get it, as opposed to being like, well, what do I already have around me that I can
yeah.
be content with?
Well, it's like that same problem of not celebrating our successes, but
Mm,
always moving like, it's like you achieve something and instead of recognizing it, celebrating it, we immediately move on to what's next. What's the next goal that we can set? And it's like by
mhm,
doing that, we're never actually stopping to like recognize or identify those times where we were satisfied, where things worked out, where things were good. And I think so it always feels like instead of having, it always feels like you're lacking. Like
mhm.
there's this hole you have to fill, but the hole is and just unending, right? And
Yeah.
it's like I think that is yeah, it's a good point. I like that. But that is the default, I think, for a lot of people, right? Is well, what can I do next? Yeah.
Yeah, well, what you can do next is you can, subscribe to our podcast
Nice.
and listen to the next episode. And, we have 400 some episodes, so you can listen to them in the car, you can listen to them in the shower, you can listen to them when you're going for a walk, or maybe when you're cooking breakfast, or possibly even with a friend, wherever you go.
That sounded very
Find it on
Dr.
your local.
Seussy almost. If you just rhymed it.
You can watch it in a car. You can watch it from afar. You can
You can
watch
watch
it
it at the
with a
bar.
lemur. Don't go, but pay attention. You don't want to break your femur. Yeah. Anyways, so uh, if you did enjoy it, like it, find it wherever you get your podcast. Also, you can watch them on YouTube. And this is the Existential Stoic podcast. I'm Randy. That's Danny. I'll see you later, Danny.
Later, Randy.